I wish I never clicked it. Out of all the links, all the threads, all the mindless late-night browsing that carried me through sleepless hours, that one post is the thing I can't scrub from my memory. I can still see the title sitting there on my feed, harmless on the surface like any other anonymous confession, but it wasn't harmless. Not even close. At first, I told myself it was just another creepypasta, some lonely stranger spinning stories for karma points. That's what Reddit is built on, right? Distractions, background noise, a place you scroll until your eyes blur and your phone slips from your hand. But this wasn't noise. This was something alive. The worst part? It's still there, still updating, even now. Most people who stumble across it never make it to the end. Some quit halfway, unsettled. Some accounts that commented on it don't exist anymore. And a few, well, I don't think they quit willingly. I think the post quit them. I don't know why I kept reading. Morbid curiosity, maybe? Or arrogance? I thought I could handle it. By the time you hear the last update, you'll understand why I wish I hadn't. And maybe, just maybe, you'll realize it's already too late for both of us. It was one of those nights where sleep wasn't even an option. You know the kind, when your brain won't stop replaying every awkward conversation you've ever had, every dumb decision you've ever made, and your ceiling fan suddenly feels louder than a jet engine. 3 a.m, the loneliest time of the night, and there I was, glowing blue in the light of my phone screen. Reddit at 3 a.m. is usually predictable. You get the same recycled memes, the same arguments that have been rotting in comment threads for weeks, the same late-night confessions dressed up as advice requests. Sometimes you'll catch a gem, a decent ghost story, a conspiracy theory about lizard people, but mostly it's cat pictures, rage threads, and bad relationship advice. Comfort food for the sleep-deprived. That night, I was bouncing between r/no-sleep and r/unresolved mysteries, 2 subreddits that have a way of blurring reality if you stare at them too long. My thumb hovered lazily over the feed, my brain half asleep, when I saw it. The title was almost laughably innocent. Is anyone else seeing this? That's it. No clickbait caps, no ominous warnings. Just a casual question, the kind that barely registers when you're doom scrolling. But something about it stuck. Maybe it was the phrasing, simple, almost desperate. Or maybe it was the fact that it had almost no upvotes, but hundreds of comments, as if people were rushing to respond before the algorithm could bury it. I told myself I'd just skim it, one quick look, but the first sentence I read made me stop cold. The post itself looked ordinary. That's what made it so unsettling. No dramatic opening, no "this happened to my friend's cousin's" setup, just a username I didn't recognize and a wall of text that read like a diary entry. The OP said they lived in the quiet neighborhood, the kind of place where nothing ever happens. They described themselves as average. Average job, average apartment, average nights alone. It should have been boring, but it wasn't. They wrote about a light across the street that flicked on every night at exactly 3:11 a.m. Not a second earlier, not a second later. At first they thought it was a motion sensor, but then they noticed the same thing happening even when no one was outside. They even set an alarm to check, and sure enough, there it was. The glow of a window across the road, lighting up like clockwork. That alone might not have been strange, but then came the knocking. Every night, right after the light, someone knocked on their door 3 times. Always 3. And when they checked, there was never anyone there. The detail that made me pause was the reflection. They said they'd catch their own reflection in the window or the mirror, just for a split second, smiling when they weren't. Grinning wide, teeth too sharp, eyes too dark. They laughed it off in the post, calling it sleep deprivation hallucinations. On the surface, it read like any spooky late-night story, but something in the tone felt wrong. Casual, almost too casual, like someone trying to downplay what was eating them alive. And here's the part that still makes my stomach turn. This wasn't even the scary part. The terror didn't live in the post itself. It lived in the replies. That's when the comment section grabbed me by the throat.
It wasn't the usual mix of trolls, skeptics, and bored storytellers. It felt frantic, urgent, like people were racing to get their words out before something cut them off. The first reply I remember said, "This is happening on my street too." No punctuation, no flair, just raw panic. Another chimed in, "Do not answer the door at 311. Just trust me." I scrolled further, my pulse ticking up with every line. Dozens of users claimed they'd seen the same things. The lights, the knocks, the off-kilter reflections. Some even uploaded grainy photos. One showed a dark street with a single lit window, glowing far too bright for the middle of the night. Another posted a bathroom mirror selfie where their grin was wider than their face could possibly allow. The angle didn't make sense. The more I stared at it, the less I understood what I was looking at. And then things got stranger. Replies started disappearing. Entire chains of comments wiped clean in seconds. Sometimes they'd flicker first, the text glitching like static before vanishing. Others would remain, but the usernames were gone, just gray outlines of accounts that no longer existed. A handful of comments updated in real time, lines being edited right before my eyes. One read, "They're at my window now," and then cut to blank. Another ended mid-sentence with nothing but ellipses, like the person never got to finish typing. I should have clicked away, closed the app, done anything but keep reading, but my stomach was in knots, my eyes glued to the screen. And just as I thought I couldn't take more, the OP came back. The first update dropped. The OP's update dropped like a stone in my chest, shorter than the first post, but heavier somehow, like every word was carrying more than it should. They wrote that they couldn't take the suspense anymore, that the knocking had gone on for 5 straight nights, louder each time until their whole apartment seemed to rattle with it. Against every warning in the comments, they opened the door. They said nobody was there, just the empty hallway stretching out in both directions, but they swore they heard it, someone leaning close, whispering their username, not shouting, not even speaking, whispering, soft enough that they had to lean into the memory of it just to write it down. The part that burned itself into my mind was the last line of that update. "If this post disappears, don't forget me." I stared at it for a long time, trying to decide if it was clever writing or a desperate cry for help. A dozen replies popped up beneath it, half begging the OP to stop, half demanding proof. A few just typed "too late" and nothing else. My rational brain screamed at me to close the app, to stop feeding into the hysteria. But I didn't. I couldn't. Something about the way the OP broke the rules, the very rules other commenters had begged them not to break, made it feel like a line had been crossed. And once crossed, you don't go back. It felt like whatever had been knocking wasn't just outside their door anymore. It had stepped inside, and now the thread itself was infected. And that was only the beginning. After that first update, the thread began to bleed. It didn't stay contained in its corner of Reddit. It spilled outward, dripping into places it didn't belong. I saw fragments of the story popping up on r/unresolved mysteries, r/glitch in the matrix, even buried in comment chains on completely unrelated subs, gaming, cooking, fitness. Someone would paste a few sentences from the OP's post, stripped of context, and then vanish. A handful of the reposts got traction, but most were locked down by moderators without explanation. Rule violations, they'd say, or off topic, but the timing was always suspicious. Threads would vanish hours after they appeared, like someone higher up didn't want them to spread. What really unsettled me were the accounts. People who'd been commenting one night were gone by the next. Their profiles didn't just deactivate, it was as if they had never existed. Posts wiped, usernames grayed out, digital fingerprints erased, and yet their words lingered in memory. Phantom traces of people swallowed by the thread. Then it got personal. One night, scrolling half asleep, I saw a reply that froze me where I sat. It was my username. Not just similar, mine. My exact username posted under a comment I hadn't written. The message was short, only 4 words. "It's already at yours." I checked my account in a panic, but nothing showed. No record of that comment anywhere, at least not where I could see it. Still, the words stuck to me like wet paint. I started to wonder if the platform itself was bending, twisting around the story. That was the moment it stopped being entertainment. Whatever game this was, it wasn't for karma anymore, and it wasn't staying online.
The second update appeared without warning, hours after the first had gone quiet. No build-up, no explanation, just a fresh block of text sitting there at the top of the thread. The OP wrote that they had woken up to silence. Not the normal kind of silence, but something heavier, like the world outside their window had been switched off. They stepped into the hallway of their apartment building and realized every door was wide open. Every neighbor was gone. No footsteps above them, no muffled TV through the walls, no distant traffic humming through the streets. They said the air felt too still, as if it were waiting. When they finally looked outside, their street was empty. No cars, no people. Just rows of buildings that looked less like homes and more like painted scenery. Flat, lifeless, hollow. Then came the sound. Tap, tap, tap. They described it so simply. A soft, steady tapping against their window. Not urgent, not loud. Patient. Almost polite. They didn't dare look, but they swore the glass trembled with each touch. The post cut off there, mid-sentence. No goodbye, no explanation, just an unfinished thought hanging like a noose. For a brief moment, the comment section exploded. Pleas for an update, theories, panic, dozens of voices filling the void. Then one by one they went dark. Replies erased, accounts vanishing. Within minutes, the thread looked gutted, stripped bare, as if the silence from OP's world had leaked into ours. It was terrifying in a way I can't describe, the sudden shift from chaos to emptiness, like a crowded room where every person stops speaking at once, and you realize you're the only one left. And still, I kept reading. That was when it started leaking into my own life. At first, it was subtle, just odd notifications on my phone, alerts for comments or replies I couldn't find once I opened the app. A red bubble would pop up, vanish, then reappear hours later with no explanation. One night, I swear I got a push notification that read, "New update posted." Only, there wasn't one. Not on the thread, not anywhere. Then came the noises. The first time I brushed it off as my building settling, the usual groans of old wood and loose pipes. But when I checked the time on my phone, the numbers punched the air out of my lungs. 3:11 a.m., right on the dot. The sound wasn't even loud, just the soft creak of a door opening somewhere down the hall. Then another, as if one by one, every apartment around me was emptying into the dark. I told myself it was coincidence. I told myself a lot of things. But it got harder when I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror, smiling faintly when I wasn't. The paranoia dug its claws in. I stopped sleeping, stopped leaving my apartment. Every time my phone buzzed, I half expected to see another whisper of an update, some proof that the thread wasn't confined to the screen anymore. And I wish I could tell you that was the worst of it, but it wasn't. The final update was worse, much worse. And the terrifying part, it's still being written. I'll never forget the night the final update appeared. It didn't look like a normal post. It was being written in real time, line by line, as if I were watching the OP type with shaking hands. They said something was outside, not knocking this time, waiting. The words came slowly, broken, as if every keystroke cost them something. They described footsteps pacing the hall, stopping right outside their door. Then a pause, then breathing. I watched the screen like it was a live feed, my own breathing ragged. And then I saw it. My name, clear as day, dropped into the middle of their sentence. It's at usernames, place now. I froze. I refreshed the page, desperate to convince myself it was a glitch, a cruel joke, but when the text reloaded, the sentence was gone, wiped clean, as if it had never been typed at all. The update ended abruptly, mid-word. Nothing else. Just silence. Hours later, another line appeared at the bottom, no username attached. Still here. That was weeks ago. And it hasn't stopped. The post is still updating. Maybe even as you're hearing this. So ask yourself, what's the last line going to say? And who's it going to name? Don't go looking for it. Don't search. I know the temptation's there. You want to see it for yourself. Prove I'm exaggerating. Laugh it off as another late-night ghost story. But that's how it starts. That's how it gets in. Because if you find the newest update, you won't just read it. You'll feel it staring back. You'll realize it's already ahead of you, already writing you in. That's what no one understands until it's too late. The post doesn't spread by accident. It chooses. So take this as your warning. Close this tab, forget my voice, and never type those words into the search bar. Because if you do, you'll see your own name waiting there. And before you leave, check the comments. Some of you might already be part of it.